What's up, danglers? So today is a first for me, and it is going to be my first tutorial video. I recently had a new subscriber request this. Him and his kids are trying to, I think, break away from your typical bobber and worm. He would like to kind of expand their knowledge on fishing and techniques. And I think by doing this, you also help with that patience aspect of fishing. When I worked at a YMCA, when I taught the fishing classes there, I specifically said when I started those classes that I want nothing to do with a bobber, a worm, and a hook. Nothing to do with it. I wanted to veer these kids away from just sitting there and staring at a bobber. I wanted them to experience actually casting a bit, you know, and moving a bait around and trying different presentations with that bait. Because not only does it, again, help with the patient aspect of it, because you're constantly moving around and trying different things, but you're also getting a lot of casting practice in. You know, you figure you cast that bobber out with the worm and then it kind of just sits there for a while. Where this is, you're constantly moving. You're really getting a lot of water time and hands-on when you're switching over to lures compared to your typical live bait. So yeah, I kind of broke that down for him. I explained to him what I did at the camp, and he was ecstatic. And when I told him that I'd be willing to make a tutorial video just for him, he was even more mind blown. Guys, this is what I do. I love doing this stuff. I haven't done too much tutorials yet, mainly because there's so many out there. But if I get a special request from somebody to do a video on a specific thing, all about it. So enough gum flap, let's get right to it. Okay, so when setting up your Texas rig, you're gonna want a EWG hook. EWG stands for extra wide gap. So you got that nice wide swoop there, and then comes up to the point, whereas your typical worm hook don't quite have that gap. Now both of these will work perfectly fine. I just prefer the extra wide gap. Okay, along with that hook, you're going to want a bullet weight. So this, I believe, is a 1/4 ounce bullet weight, lead. You can do tungsten, which is a little more expensive, but it definitely helps with really feeling the bottom and sensitivity and really knowing what you're working over. But those two things is where we're going to start. And both of these you can get at Not Just Flies right here in Blairstown. So we're going to take some line here. I'm even going to show you a little knot. So first thing you want to do, and this is still a mistake that I make to this day if I'm in a rush, not paying attention, you gotta put your bullet weight on first. So you'll notice there's a point on one end, and the point of this point is that when it hits the water, it's going to be a little more it's going to travel through the water much easier with that point, and it's also going to go through your weeds and stuff like that much easier. So you want to make sure when you feed your line, you're feeding it through that point. Make sure I can see what I'm doing here. There's that. See, now she's on. Now we're going to tie what's called a improved clinch knot. Sorry, I'm trying to look through the camera, not in my hands. All right. So you want, I'd say about that much line. I would say that's good. 4-5 inches. You're going to want to pinch those two lines together. So now you got a loop. You're going to want to twist 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I usually do 6 or 7. Okay, now that you made a loop right here, that'll focus at all for me. Probably not. All right, you can see that. So you're going to take your tag end, you're going to put it right through that loop. Now when you're putting it through that loop, you're actually creating another loop. So you're going to want to grab that tag end and feed it right through that loop you just made. You're then going to, oops, lose your tag end. Oops, no. There we go. Grab your tag end, and now what you want to do is moisten from here to about here. That way when you cinch this down, you're not creating any friction and possibly weakening your line. So I'm just going to wet it real quick. And then you're going to want to cinch her down. So there you go. There's your improved clinch. Jeez, the heat's getting to me, guys. Bear with me. Cut your tag end off, just like that. And here you go. There's kind of the bare bones of your Texas rig. Once you get a little more, I would say, into it, maybe a little more advanced, you can buy what's called a bobber stopper, which you slide onto your line beforehand. That way once you get these guys on here, you can slide that up right up to the top of the weight, and it'll keep it pinned right at the top of the hook there, instead of it sliding around. Not absolutely necessary, but it does help in most cases. So, another thing you can get at the one and only Not Just Flies, some plastic worms. These are made by X Zone. They are floating finesse worms. So these guys are going to, especially with like a Texas rig, when that weight hits the bottom, that worm's going to float up nicely and kind of just hang there. Alright, next step is rigging your worm. So, you can see the point of the hook starts here, comes up about, oh, I don't know, maybe ½ inch before it starts to bend. So what you want to do is take your point, stick it into the top of your worm just to where that bend is. So once, right where that bend starts is where you're going to stop. Once you're in, you're going to poke out the front just like that. You're then going to feed your hook all the way through until you get to that bend. Once you're on that bend, you're going to want to twist and pull to where that hook is going to sit nice and flat right where that bend is. See that? Alright, so now you're going to go to your other bend, and you're going to use that to measure where to poke the point through. So right where my thumb is, that's where I'm going to poke through. Okay. Get as centered as possible. So now you are all the way through. We are almost done. Now to make this thing weedless, so you can really work it around just about any kind of cover, thick weeds, lily pads, stuff like that. Being able to rig this weedless is one of the, I would say, most beneficial things about a Texas rig, is having the ability to rig it weedless and toss it into, for the most part, anywhere. You know, once you get into your thicker stuff, you're gonna need a little more weight and maybe some stronger line, thicker hooks, etc. But this right here has been probably one of the, if not the most productive styles of fishing. It's a good old Texas rig. So yeah, so now you got that sitting nice and flush with that worm. You're going to kind of push the worm forward and then slide it back right onto the tip. See, now I can run my finger right along that and I'm not going to get poked. So there you go, there's your final product. When that fish hits, that hook's going to come out, it's going to get exposed, and it's going to go right in its mouth. Now, again, like I was saying before, what's great about these is, you know, you're constantly working it, you're not just leaving it sit. So with that being said, you're going to cast this guy out, you're going to let it sink to the bottom, and then just give it some twitches, like it's bouncing along the bottom, like it's a worm feeding on something, and just do a slow retrieve. Slowly retrieve that bait in as you're working it up and down. Again, it allows you to try different presentations, you know, do like a fast jig or maybe a slow jig. Sometimes just kind of dragging it along the bottom will make a difference. Yeah, there's so many different things you can do with this, so many different baits you can rig up like this. It's very versatile and one of the most productive styles of fishing, especially when it comes to largemouth. There you go. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed, and to the person who requested this, Mr. Captain, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. I hope you and your kids can get out and really catch some big ones and maybe take a little less of the stress off yourself by doing this. And again, I am open to anything. If there's anything else you would like to learn, please do not hesitate to ask. And I would also be more than willing to come and do like a in-person kind of lesson thing. I love doing that kind of stuff, so please do not be afraid to ask. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, guys. Hit that notification bell, drop some comments, hit that like button, and I will catch you later.